Hello, and welcome to the penultimate episode of Phantom Zoned, the podcast where we've dredged the lakes of hell in search of the worst the cinematic world has to offer and put it on trial for its various crimes against humanity. Should a film be found guilty, it goes into the Phantom Zone. It's simple as that. But if it's not guilty, you may ask, well, then we let it go free because we want everybody to enjoy it. I'm your host, Adrian Torres, and joining me, as always, is my good crime-fighting, rootin'-tootin', cowboy-esque pal, Scott Daly. How we doing, Scott?
I am doing very well, Adrian. I'm very excited to complete the trilogy at last.
The circle will not be unbroken. Because we are completing the cycle. We are sitting through Snake Eater 3, ellipsis, His Law.
His Law.
It's very important because they make sure to have the ellipsis there in a title, which I've never seen as part of the actual title. Usually that's like, you'll have it somewhere on like the poster or maybe a trailer, but never a title is literally ... His Law.
Yeah. And also, has Soldier ever not gone by his law? Like, it's kind of his character trait.
Well, I mean, he often does whatever he wants. I don't know how he keeps his job. Like, I don't know how he keeps on coming back from suspension.
Yeah, he's suspended at the beginning of every movie.
He's suspended at the very beginning of the movie, goes and is a vigilante to save his sister, kills a whole bunch of people in the process. In the second movie, not only is he suspended, but he is sent to an insane asylum.
Yeah, we whistled right past that one.
No, we did that.
No, the movie, I mean. The third movie pretends like that never happened.
No, because he's back to acting crazy.
Yeah.
And he's got the opening scene, and directly after the opening scene, he's suspended, and the police chief or captain, whatever, says, "I need your badge and gun." And the soldier goes, "Again?" And he goes, "Again."
I like when the movie writes the joke I was about to make, because I wrote down "again" right before he said "again." I was like, thanks, movie. I appreciate that.
The funniest thing about the Snake Eater series is the first one does have a couple goofy parts, but for the most part, the goofiness comes from just how ridiculous the situation is and like the decisions that they're making in both the script and the filmmaking. The second movie, which says that it was made the same year, but they look completely different. So it was clearly like one was made like 2 years earlier and got released in the same year probably as the second, but they're two completely different films because the second one's a lot cheesier and leaning into the cheese, but it works in a way because they have the insane asylum aspect and everything to it. And then the third movie does that tried and true effort that lots of movie series were doing in the 90s when they got to number 3 and said, hey, here's what worked in the first movie, here's what worked in the second movie, what if we put them together?
Yeah. I like they went back to the Snake Eater roots and brought rape back into it, because it's great.
And
really
not
great.
only, but the difference is because they took the aesthetic and some of the things that they learned in the second movie, they decided to constantly make it a joke.
Yeah.
But then everything's a joke in this movie. Like the level of cartoonishness that's in this movie gets pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. This movie, Adrian, I love the Snake Eater series.
Yes.
Unabashedly. These are great movies, but I was a little bummed. A little bummed this time. It wasn't. I sat down for a ridiculous good time, and there were some pretty ridiculous parts, but it just, I don't know, it didn't feel the same.
There's lots of boring parts.
Yeah, there's so much in between that silly ridiculousness. There's so much boring.
Yep. And I mean, The synopsis is really, really simple, which is funny because, like, the tagline on the box for the poster is no rules, no system, no mercy. Well, it's not. He still has rules that he has set. No system. Well, technically, it's less than 24 hours after he gets suspended that he gets called with a job, and the first thing that he does is find an old buddy of his who can get him temporary PI license. So he's jumping from one system to another completely different system.
Is that a thing? A temporary PI license?
Yeah. If it's one
of
those,
is that real?
It's one of those that you technically do have to get for your private eye. There's a test and several things you have to do, and because sometimes different states have different qualifications that you need to have. If it's one of those that you're going from like one system to another, or sometimes when police officers, not all of them, but some of them, when they're either let go by the force, forced to like retire early, they'll give them a temporary one so that they can start working right away before.
Gotcha.
Everything goes through. But it's not something that's really done. I know it was more prevalent back in the day, like 70s and 80s and 90s. I don't necessarily think so nowadays, but since this takes place in 1992, at that time, it would make sense.
And also, I mean, he's not, like, he still has his job. He's just on suspension. So, like, I don't think the police union would let him go off and get his PI license and start working cases while on his suspension.
It's Soldier we're talking about here.
Does anyone in this movie call him Soldier?
Yes, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Because it's at the most awkward point. So, while the box has that information, the actual synopsis of the movie is a Vietnam vet named Soldier is hired to find a biker gang called Hell's Fury, which kidnapped, drugged, and raped a young girl and exact revenge.
It's true. That's probably the most accurate of the Snake Eater summaries.
Yes and no, because he says that he won't get revenge on them because that's not what he dabbles in, but he will try to sort things out.
He totally gets revenge.
And then also the whole where it mentions the drugged part in there is that you don't necessarily know that it's the drugging that causes the state of the girl that he's trying to right the wrong of.
Yeah, they said, I mean, they made it seem like it was, like, she was just broken. Yeah. But turns out...
It was just drugs.
But we'll get to it. But I have so many questions about that.
So many questions. So the movie sets things off in typical Soldier fashion, in which he's up to shenanigans when it comes to... basically solving a case. Only this time, he's just walking by a diner when things happen.
Yeah, this is like the most disappointing of the openings of these movies. Was it the first one or the second one that opened with the drug sting?
The first one.
It was the first one.
The first one's the drug sting that turns into the sex scene that turns into him getting held up.
Adrian, that was an awesome opening to a movie. It was ridiculous, but it was awesome because it's just like I did not know what I was watching. And this is just literally he's walking down the street and happens to see a robbery in progress.
Well, it doesn't even start with him as a thing. It already shows like it's just inside the diner and somebody's paying, and then they have the guy who starts to rob the place and then is trying to get the keys that the lady just decides when she saw him that her response to the robber was "fuck you," takes the keys, throws them into the back of the place, and just starts screaming.
She screams so much. What were you expecting to happen? I mean, I don't think this lady thought this through.
I don't know. I was just confused why she did it. And then he's like, "Get the keys," and the Chinese guy's like, "There's no keys back here." And then Soldier just happens to be walking by and is just like, "Uh-oh, hold on. I know exactly how I'm going to solve this. I'm going to pretend like I'm robbing the place."
There you go. That'll do it.
Oh.
But the thing is, like, the movie wants you to think that that's like a really smart idea that he did, but it didn't work.
No.
Because, like, the guy, when he throws the coin up in the air to flip for whose robbery it gets to be, the guy was about to shoot him.
And he just shot him in the head. Exactly. Yeah. And it wasn't like he just tried to wing, just like shoot him in the arm or anything, which would have totally been fine. Or shoot him in the hand, He just decides, nope, I'm just going to shoot the guy straight through the brain. Like, it's the really weird decision. And, like, but they make it seem like it's a hero moment. And then after the guy falls down, you see the brain blood spatter that's on the door to the kitchen directly behind it while the lady's screaming. But they're holding the shot like it's supposed to be a comedy. And you're like, no, he just shot that dude through the head.
Yeah.
At the point blank range.
The weirdest part about that for me was the shot is on Soldier. Like, it shows the brain in the background on the woman. Yeah. And then it cuts back to Soldier and the woman's screaming off screen. And then he walks towards her. And then the scene ends as she's screaming. Well, and in any other movie, you would say, like, walking towards someone off screen as the scene fades out, he's about to do something to that person.
Well, but they ended on a joke, remember? Because he shoots the guy in the face, and then the guy who was a dick who was trying to get extra change ends up walking over and says, "Now do her."
Yeah, that guy.
Soldier turns around and just bitch slaps him into, like, the stratosphere, basically.
I don't know why they decided what we need in this diner is a crazy dick.
Yes. And then he's going to suggest that the main character should execute that lady because she wasn't giving him a free $10.
Yeah, because he was trying to rob it. There were 3 people trying to take money from this diner.
One of them actually ate there and was just kind of a jerk. So, because of the fact that Soldier, killed this person at point blank range, the lady is deciding that she's suffering from emotional distress and needs to sue the city for $10 million. So the police decide, how about you apologize and we suspend you?
Well, there you go. There's the problems with our law system right there. Although, like, while I understand they needed to get him suspended very quickly because that's what these movies have to do. Yep. This is probably like he didn't handle this well. Yes, this is probably like the least bad thing he's done in these movies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with that. But it's going to be okay because there's a news report on the situation at the diner, and Soldier gets a call from a lady who saw him on TV and basically wants to hire his services. But this starts a weird trend that exists through the entire movie that made me want to punch a hole in any wall or anyone's face that was around me. Because the movie starts with this scene starts with the lady who's talking onto a phone. It cuts from her to Soldier, who's having, who's on the other side of the conversation. Except for then it just stays on Soldier, and he's having a conversation on the phone that we never hear.
Right. Any other movie, the other person's voice would be VO right there.
Yes.
And we'd get to hear the other side of the conversation. And this refuses to do it.
It happens 4 different times in this movie.
I didn't count that. But
yeah, it happens 4 different times. And I'm like, okay, this is pertinent information. At the very last time that it happens in the movie, Lorenzo Lamas finally turns to the person who's next to him and says, oh, here's what that conversation was about. And I'm like, well, it's about time because I'm not sure what the hell you were discussing. There's a part where a guy who belongs to the bad guy motorcycle gang gets a call from somebody else, and he ends up going, no, I'm not taking the fall for you. They can't pin anything on me, and then hangs up. And I was like, who is he talking to? There's no way to know. They're not showing anyone else. He never mentions who it is. And it's not until like 15 minutes before the end of the movie that you find out that, oh, hey, here's this other bad guy, and you basically have to piece together is, oh, that's probably the guy who called him early in the film. But you never get the other side of this conversation. It's like, that's pertinent information.
Yeah, I agree. The whole everything to do with phones in this movie was really weird.
Yeah,
but because all the bikers have car phones.
Some of them, it's attached to their helmets.
Like we're jumping ahead, but they're hanging out in their gang headquarters, and one of them has to answer the phone. He has to go out to his bike and put on his helmet. Like, why don't you just bring that inside, buddy?
No, because he does the next weirdest thing. He holds the side of the helmet to his face so that he can speak into the microphone. He doesn't even put it on its head. He just basically slams it against the side of his face so that he talks that way. And it's like, do you know how this operates?
No, definitely not.
No, very much not. So the soldier goes to visit the people who called him because they basically said, hey, our daughter's been in a weird place. She was kidnapped for, was it 18 months, they said?
That sounds right. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
About 18 months. Their daughter had a story that she was going to be working on, covering. Part of it was going to be covering like Sturgis, and part of it was being covering, motorcycle gangs on the road, what they were really like. And, of course, unfortunately, she doesn't come back as soon as she's supposed to. And she ends up coming back home a shell of her former self.
Did you write down this quote? Because I did, because I love it.
Which one? About the terrible things that happened to her?
Yeah.
And about how she got a raging case of gonorrhea.
Yep. She was 30 pounds underweight, malnourished, anemic. Her mind had been affected, probably from prolonged forced drug abuse. She had a raging case of gonorrhea. Like, what mother would describe that when explaining the terrible things that have happened to her kid?
But she goes, she had a raging case of gonorrhea, which has come back as genital herpes. And I'm like, do you really need to follow it up with that other one? If you're saying a raging case of gonorrhea, I think that's the one. You've chosen that one. You're describing it that way. Move on to the other thing.
Also, I feel like out of all the terrible things that have happened to this poor girl, her raging gonorrhea is probably the least concerning that you need to share with the man you're going to hire. No,
because they also... And the terrible thing about this family, who we only see for like 3 scenes, and I'm glad for that because they're terrible in those first couple scenes, is they know of their daughter's affliction, of her problem. All they could do is just explain it to him. Instead, they decide to say, the old lady goes, hey, sweetie, can you go get our kid? And goes to get their daughter, who's like in her 20s or something like that. And so the dad brings her out, and instantly the girl starts to lift up her shirt, and then starts to drop her underwear, basically offering herself. And Lorenzo Lamas is like, "No, I'm not. What are you doing?" And the dad takes her back inside because that's all they were parading her out for. And the mom's like, "She does that anytime she sees a guy." And it's like, if you know that's going to happen, and you know that's psychologically scarring your daughter in general. Why are you parading her around like that?
It's really bad. They just let her do it, and they don't stop her until she's about to take her underwear off. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Shouldn't she be going to like a psychiatrist or something? I don't think your first decision to be like, oh no, our daughter's horribly fucked up. I know we can take her to a shrink, but let's try private investigation first.
And they lose her twice during the course of the movie. They are such shitty parents.
There's a moment towards the end of the film at the biker hangout place where Soldier literally goes, "Oh, look, it's the Mullinson daughter. They got her again." And that's just it. It's just like a shrug, and it's like, dude, you're supposed to be getting revenge for her and protecting her. That's your one job.
It's literally the MacGuffin of the movie, and you deliver the flattest line ever. Oh, there she is. Okay, and just back to the plan.
It's like this is what you were supposed to be doing, is making sure she doesn't get kidnapped by her, because apparently she's the easiest person to kidnap.
Yeah, I mean, this is like completely ruining the Snake Eater universe. Soldier was never this incompetent. I am furious.
Well, never was anybody this incompetent in the series, because we're talking about, this is a movie where we have to take a detour so that Soldier can save the daughter, because as a guy says in his defense before there's a fight scene that doesn't need to happen, the guy says, "Oh, I just stopped by the side of the road to ask somebody for directions, and the next thing I knew, this girl was suggesting that we fuck in the back of my truck."
Yeah, that's... Why did we do that? This is such a fucked up movie. I don't know why we did this. I don't know why this was necessary.
Yeah, like the opening half of it is just like, it's one of those that you're like, you're playing this for like weird laughs that aren't laughs. But then like you think about this girl's story for a minute, because like even after Soldier beats up the guy in the truck, he's like, "Hey, I'm just here to help you," and she's like, "You don't want to fuck me?" And he's like, "No, I want to help you." And then she gets like genuinely depressed by it, and it's like, do you know what you're saying in the scene?
This woman needs to be in a hospital.
You're not. This is terrible because you keep on having this happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say director George Ershbaumer, director of all three of these movies, has very complicated feelings about women.
I would say so. I would expect no less from the person who directed a movie called Fire Twister.
I forgot about that.
Yep. Or Stranger in My Bed.
Oh.
Yes. It's a 2005 movie that he directed, which you'll like in a way, because the description of the movie is, to escape her abusive spouse, Sarah fakes her own death and flees. Seems like a good plan, right? Sadly, it doesn't take her estranged husband long to get wise and hunt her down. This game between them will turn deadly, and it looks like only one will survive. Put a cop hot on their trail, and that sounds like you'd have another Snake Eater movie.
Yeah, that sounds very, very familiar. And man, this guy is prolific.
And that's a movie from 2005, and you're like, it's from 2005 and it has the same plot of like movies that you were doing 20 years before.
He's made 10 movies in the past 3 years.
I guess that's good.
He's prolific, man. You can't stop him.
I mean, yeah, you can, because there was probably a good period where he wasn't really making many movies. How many of them are Canadian?
All of them. They're all made-for-TV movies in Canada.
Well, I don't know what that means. I don't live in Canada, so I'm not familiar with, the quality of their TV movie specials.
Yeah, I have no idea. But, damn, 41 movies under his belt.
I guess. I mean, he's getting paid. I don't know what they pay him, but...
You go, George.
I guess. So...
Where were we?
The reason why we're doing tangents like that is because that's what Soldier decides to do. He's got the job that he's supposed to, solve or take care of, get revenge on, whatever you want to call it. But he keeps on taking side cases or side jobs. And when he wants to work on this main case, he ends up teaming up with an old friend of his who used to be a biker named Cowboy.
Yeah, and this is like exactly what you think a Canadian movie would expect an American cowboy to look like.
Yes.
And to act like.
And there was a moment where I thought the movie was going to end up turning into like Lorenzo Lamas trying to cash in on like Roadhouse. Well, because they've got the bar scene that's set up for him to fight, and I thought for a second that the guy who was drinking at the bar, who was dressed like a cowboy, was going to end up being like the owner of the establishment, and bikers went in there all the time, and so that Soldier has to be the cooler for the bar, while also trying to figure out which of the bikers that's coming into the place is the person who caused the problem.
Nope,
not at all. He just gets in a fight that recreates the fight from the first movie.
Oh, it's almost exactly the same, right?
Yep. Very, very closely the same.
It's got the big guy in it.
Yep.
And he was wearing body armor for some reason.
Which still doesn't make sense because he didn't give an answer on that. It's so weirdly shot and like pieced together, and like just how everything happens is just through weird happenstance.
Well, like the part where like you wouldn't hit a girl, would you? And then he throws her through the window. That's just weird.
It's so weird. And then weirder than that is he goes back to his girlfriend's place, who we haven't met this girl before, correct?
No, this is new. That's completely new.
That's not the girl from the second movie. It's some other girl that or lady that runs an antique store and is hot to trot for Soldier, and has the weird moment where after he's had this fight and everything, he comes over to her place / his place and ends up just holding up a bag and sits down and goes, "Ribs okay?" And she ends up saying, "Oh, you got me my favorite meal." And he's like, "Well, I do what I can. By the way, I'm going to go put these ribs in the oven." And I was like, "Wait, what? You just brought the ribs. You just bought ribs. And now you're going to put them in the oven?"
I don't know why this woman is in this movie. I don't know the purpose of this relationship at all. Like, he's supposed to be tracking down this biker gang, and we keep cutting to different things.
Yeah, like we spend a bit of time with them talking to each other. Just like there's a couple scenes where they're just talking, and then we have the awkward saxophone-backed sex scene. Yeah,
which comes like right after the scene where the poor abused girl like was in the truck getting basically, I mean, you could call it rape because she doesn't have her mental faculties to actually offer consent.
Correct.
And then we cut from there to a overly long Lorenz. It's almost as if like he went home from saving the girl from being raped and said, "That put me in the mood for some sex." It's so weird.
Well, it's just as weird as what we see in the next shot the next morning, but what was the most striking feature of this apartment condo, would you say, where Soldier has sex?
Oh, I don't remember. So I don't remember the set, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't remember the giant wall of fucking rifles?
No, I honestly don't.
In the middle of his living room, directly above the fireplace, is just a wall of like 15 rifles.
He's a soldier, man.
First of all, Soldier's never lived in this nice of a place before.
No, how is he affording this on
a cop salary?
A perpetually suspended police salary.
Is it potentially like kickback money that he was getting from when he was working all those special ops assignments?
It's got to be. Yeah. They probably stole Vietnamese gold or something.
The special elite tax force that within the first 5 minutes of the movie is shown a picture of their emblem on the air.
Yeah, they're doing, like, we talked about this, I think, in every one of these movies.
Yep.
They're doing a real bad job of keeping the secret task force secret.
Well, and it's terrible because
everybody knows. Because
they had that at the beginning. Like, in the first movie, Soldier himself is walking around with a shirt that says Search and Destroy. Covert, elite, tactical, whatever. And you're like, no, you shouldn't be wearing, like your company's outing t-shirt.
No, it's a really bad idea. Yes. And this is, it's perfect because this completes the circle of bad idea.
Yes. But he ends up, Soldier through a tip ends up going to a strip club to try to track down somebody who can give him more information, basically. And he ends up going to a strip club to get as much information as he can. They try to make hilarity ensue. Doesn't really entirely work. And then we get introduced to the second set of stupid 3 characters. At the very beginning of the movie, we had people who were hassling him, and we got to see like what people thought thugs were in like the 90s, you know. But it's more so like cretins, like juvenile kids, basically.
Right, yeah.
And then we find out that the girl that he's talking to try to get beef on what's going on for the central mystery, comes her boyfriend. And her boyfriend kind of caught your eye for a second, did he not?
He's a giant man.
And he is indeed Scott's definition of a giant man because he is a wrestler.
Giant man.
The character is played by none other than Bam Bam Bigelow. He could do a decent job in the ring when selling a match and selling up hype for a match, but when he was out there on his own, it was kind of a sorry sight. He's not the best actor. He's clearly trying, but he's not succeeding. I mean, there's a point basically where his character has acute delayed reaction syndrome, where he gets shot in the foot and it takes him like a full 10 seconds to realize, oh God, I was shot in the foot.
Okay, but this is not the antagonist of the movie because he is not part of the biker gang that did the terrible things to the girl.
He knows who they are and gives a little bit of information, but it's very little.
But he's just a stepping stone on the way. But guess who made it? Guess who made it on the cover of the film?
He did.
It's our boy Moose. He's there.
Goose.
He's there. Oh, it's Goose. Sorry, yeah. Because his goose is cooked. This is a dumb line. But he's sitting on his motorcycle. I don't think we ever saw him do that in the movie.
No, because his motorcycle gets run over by Soldier.
And then shot with the shotgun.
Like 7 different times.
Oh, my God.
But he made it onto the cover, of course, because he was in wrestling at the time. And they knew that it was a name and face that they could, get people to just rent it or buy it on its own. Because when the movie came out, it was pre the internet as we know it now. So if you were interested in a movie, you actually had to try to get it. So it's not as easy as like nowadays. Yeah. Like if we wanted to, we could go online and be like, oh, hey, Snake Eater 3, what's the rating on that? Oh, there's only 7 critics reviews and they all look really terrible on it. Okay, that lets me know. You didn't have that same thing. So when this came out in the theater, you probably had lots of people who were like, oh man, it's the end of the Snake Eater saga. I don't know who's saying that.
I don't know how many lots of people.
But there's, that there are several people at like each store who were like, oh my God, they've got it. Okay, I'm going to keep walking the store, but I'm going to have this under my arm so no one else can get this copy from me. But you didn't really have that nowadays. And it is as easy as, like Rotten Tomatoes, when people look at it and they're like, it's only the 20s. No, I think I'm going to wait. And so it's...
Yeah.
So you had to tie...
It was a different time.
Yeah, you had to have somebody like Bam Bam Bigelow be in there to bring in that crossover audience that you're not normally going to have. It's a stupid, terrible idea, and it's the whole reason why there's very few WWE movies that make it to the theaters.
Yeah.
But again, as we said, this part's not important. What is important is the fact that the person that Soldier was talking to at the strip club does have information on potentially who could be behind all this. Like she's kind of the middle person. Like she knows some names. She can get some information out there to help them on their quest to set things right. It's short-lived though.
Yeah, that's like, so they take her home. Soldier takes her home with him.
Yes.
And then his girlfriend or wife, I don't know.
Girlfriend.
The girl flips out about it.
Yes, and Scott, when she flips out about it, that's when he gets called Soldier. And that's why it's the weirdest thing, because of the fact that they're having the argument and she's in the kitchen with him and she turns and she goes, Soldier! And I'm like, what? What the fuck? Like, you guys are seriously dating and you're just randomly throwing out Soldier there in the middle of the conversation? That doesn't make sense.
No. But so how does that conflict end?
So Soldier decides that, you know what, this morning, which is in the context of the movie, the next morning, it wasn't enough that we already had sex once. You should totally miss work and we should have sex again, instead of going and checking on the lady who's staying at my apartment right now, even though we know that there's a killer on the loose who is, coming to get her. So she goes over and stands by the door when someone's knocking, and sure enough, it's Moose.
It's Goose.
Sorry, Goose.
You did it this time too.
Goose.
I wasn't the only one.
Goose decides that her goose is cooked, and when she looks at the people, he fires a shotgun through the door, killing her instantly.
Yeah, so good job, Soldier. Really, really great. And then Goose walks down the stairs, limping because his foot got shot, wearing the same shoe, maybe? Like his toes are exposed.
The key is they want to play it for a laugh. They kill off a character in a very violent fashion and then ask like 25 seconds later, so you want to laugh, right?
So they decide they need revenge on Goose, and this is my favorite part of the movie.
Yes, because we're talking about Soldier here, and when it comes to Soldier getting revenge, he likes to make it a several course meal, but still decides to blow his load on the first meal, and which he literally does in this movie, because he decides, I need to go all out. I need to create a booby trap that's going to get him.
This is a snake eater movie, Adrian. He's got to make some traps.
I know.
Got to get the traps in.
You still have the guys who took the girl and everything, and he doesn't care about that because he's got a chance for shenanigans.
The guy who specifically said he was not out to get revenge decides to take revenge for the dead stripper that he met the next day. Or the previous day. And he does it. It's the most convoluted, hilarious plan I've ever heard of.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's especially because Cowboy shows up for part of it and is like, oh, we should drink some beers. And then they drink like a couple 6-packs and are basically there for like what feels like 7 or 8 hours. Until the guy decides to pee. And, like, Soldier's there in the bushes waiting the whole time. Like, he wants to see the reaction. It's like, you have that case you're supposed to be working on. Why are you sitting here right on the edge of the forest? Literally, like, no joke. He's on the edge of the forest just sitting there so he can blend in and stares at the house the whole time.
Just shoot the guy. Just shoot him. You obviously don't have a problem shooting people. You do it all the time in this movie. Just shoot him. He takes 8 hours to lay this trap. And so the plan is literally Soldier sneaks into the guy's toilet and hooks it up to electricity. So then when he pees, it'll shock him. Then he has Cowboy come in and get him really drunk. So he'll have to go to the bathroom. And then we do this whole stupid narrative beat where the guy's like, yeah, when I was getting my foot checked, I told the doc about my peeing problem. He gave me these pills. And now I barely have to go to the bathroom anymore.
That's because we totally forgot to mention. So when they're at the strip club and Bam Bam Bigelow comes over annoyed with Soldier, Soldier says that they try to be civilized about it and take it outside. And so a Soldier decides that, he's ready to go. He's ready for a fight. And Goose ends up saying, hey, before we fight, I'm gonna go pee, just to let you know. And it's gonna take a little bit because my kidneys don't work for shit.
Yeah,
like he mentions that, like that's pre-fight, and then he's like, yeah, because my kidneys don't work for shit. And he goes, if you're not around the corner by the time I'm done peeing, then I'm really gonna have to track you down. It's like, what?
So of course that's the setup to this wonderful payoff. So the plan's ruined now because he doesn't have to pee because he's got these pills. But then 5 seconds later, he's like,
he gets up and pees.
I gotta piss. You're just like, wait, you just did that whole thing. What?
Nope.
This movie is like really into people peeing outside. Like there's
cowboy pees outside at least once.
Yep. This guy pees outside. One of the gang members in the other gang that we haven't even met yet is going to pee outside for no reason.
Yeah.
It's just really, really into outside peeing on Snake Eater.
We only meet one of the other members of the other biker gang before all this. Just once, just for a quick second. And then it just goes back to the movie. And then it goes back to the biker gangs to wrap everything up. The biker gangs are really boring. Like, their involvement in anything isn't shown on screen. They talk about drugs, they talk about booze, but it's never really there. It's just when it comes down to, I guess, them wanting to have sex.
Yeah, I guess. My favorite thing about them is that they're all, like, super Canadian.
Yes.
So they like talk really cordially to each other and of course say a bunch, and I couldn't take them seriously because they're supposed to be bikers. And then they're just like talking friendly to each other and like worried about each other's feelings. And I'm just like, this doesn't work. But, I'm sorry, Canadians. No offense. This does not work.
But the weirdest thing about it is the fact that that's where the main bad guy actually is. But like, you can't give anyone a sense of scale of the size of like their involvement and everything, just because everything seems just so convoluted. So when it turns out at the end that they have the Mollinson daughter and God, what's his face? I don't even remember the bad guy's name because I think they only said it once, but he just reveals that she can't stay away from him because he's got her addicted to this drug. And that's why she's willing to do everything. And you're like, well, that's it? You made it seem like there was something bigger than that. And like the way everybody's treating, like there's some type of conspiracy and stuff. And it's just that, no, that's it. I
don't know why they had her get kidnapped and then come back. Like, I don't, like, just, like, the whole thing about her coming back and then why not just have her still be kidnapped? And he has to find her. Like, I don't get it.
It's not very well done. None of it is. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like that portion of it, you're like, I want more. I either want to know more about these bad guys and see what a threat they are, or then don't show me them at all, and just the threat of them might be enough. If that makes sense.
And I know that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I know the right thing to do because this movie, we haven't talked about this, but this movie, the first of the Snake Eater movies, is based off of a book.
Yep.
A book called Rafferty's Rules, which was a 1987 novel about a old cop turned PI who is hired by a woman to go find her kidnapped daughter that's been kidnapped by motorcycle gangs after researching them for a high school or a college project. So, like, they took the story almost exactly.
Yeah.
But then they changed it in a stupid way for I don't know why.
I don't know why either. Well, I mean, they used to do stuff like that all the time, but for it to adhere that closely is what's surprising about it, because that's not normally something you have it be that close, because you have to. They would normally change like a whole bunch of elements to make it hew closer to whatever that series of films was.
Right. And it's very clear. Like, you can look at the book description to know that this is trying to do like a detective noir type tale, which is not what this movie is at all.
Not at all. This doesn't even know what the meaning of noir is.
Yeah.
But one of the key hallmarks that you hope for in a movie like this, or the rest of the Snake Eater series, is that you want competent action, and not even that's great in this movie.
No, it's really a mess. But Adrian, they did a callback to their first movie though.
Oh god.
Because the bad guys are all holed up in their bunker.
Yep.
Which I don't know why their hideout is a bunker with like slats for machine gun fire. I don't know why that is, but they barrel through the bunker with a truck, a bulldozer, which is exactly what happens in the first Snake Eater.
Yep.
Except it's a shack and a tractor. But I was like, all right, we're doing it. Full circle.
Somebody understands variations on a theme. He just doesn't understand that you're not supposed to put it in the same series of movies that you've done 3 of.
I think my favorite line, though, is when Cowboy says, "That thing looks locked up tighter than the Alamo." And, like, the Alamo was, like, first of all, we lost the Alamo. Like, the Alamo fell.
Yeah.
So bad comparison. Also, the Alamo wasn't a fort. It was a mission, and it was, like, historically difficult to defend.
Yep.
So, like, this is literally just Canadians saying, he's a cowboy. What's a thing in Texas that everyone would know about? They just picked the Alamo. It's perfect.
I don't know. Cowboy's a weird character because he's not in it enough because they keep on sending him away. And he seems like he should be more important for the way that things turn out. But no, that's not it. And so, of course, he has a little fight, and you think he's going to beat the main bad guy, but Soldier doesn't even get to do that either, does he?
No, he doesn't. That's because Drugged Girl appears.
Yeah, Drug Girl comes back, the Mollinson daughter comes back and stabs the main bad guy through the back of the head with a knife. Where she got the knife from and what caused her to come back, I'm not really sure.
That's really weird because we see her leave the bunker with 2 guys chasing her.
Yes.
And then we never see her again until she's stabbing the guy in the back of the head.
Yep.
So where did those guys go?
I don't know. And the weirder thing is the next scene is supposed to be like several months later, and the parents of the Mollinson daughter are thanking Snake Eater, basically. And they say, oh, yeah, so $5,000, right? That's what you wanted? He goes, no. But I will take a sack of those tomatoes. And before he even does that, they casually mention off to the side when she comes around the corner, they're like, oh, by the way, our daughter's showing great signs. She's had a complete breakthrough, and she's perfectly fine now. And she comes around the corner, and she's like, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Kelly, for believing in me when no one else did. And you're just like, wait, what? She's perfectly fine now? Because she was, just a couple minutes ago, they had kidnapped her again and had her on drugs, and then all of a sudden, she's, seeing, she's basically going through this instance in, like, through drug-addled eyes. She kills a man and then is fine. And
then she's fine. She's all better. That's how it works. No. Did you not know that?
No.
Yeah, that's how it works.
It doesn't seem to make any sense. And the only funny line that I really liked in the movie, just because of how stupid it was after he mentions that, no, I don't want the $5,000. I just want, a thing of those tomatoes over there. The dad, Mr. Mollinson, I guess, ends up saying, how's your partner? And Soldier says, Cowboy? He's pissed off. He doesn't really like getting shot.
And poor Cowboy, like, he came in here expecting to get paid.
Yep.
And they cut to him on the back of the truck, and he was shot, like, at least 3 times.
He was shot 2 times in the kneecap because they showed it in slow motion.
Yeah. And I think he was shot once in the arm or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But then Soldier's like, here's your take, and just throws him one tomato. And I'd be like, you asshole.
And then,
give me my money.
And then they just drive off, and that's the end. And you're like, wait, that's it?
That's it. That's the end of the franchise.
The only thing we didn't mention in the movie was that about 3/4 of the way through, some bikers show up to the hotel that they're at that point and throw, like, Molotovs and stuff. Into the hotel.
And then they escape by running, basically punching through the wall because the walls are thin. I will give it to the movie when it was doing the whole, like, him and Cowboy yelling at the people with the TV loud on the other side of the wall. I was just like, why? What are we doing? Yeah. Why are we doing this? And then it actually paid off in a meaningful way, which is, like, the only time that happens in this movie.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I was I was disappointed because I wanted this to be, I guess, happier. Like, I wanted it to be really far into, like, the zany, so bad it's good.
I wanted to feel like I felt the first time I watched the original Snake Eater so long ago.
Yep.
Less than a year. And no, I did not. We left out the lesson he learned from the Vietnamese, though.
Oh, well, that's not really important. That's in the one of the few action sequences, because he mentions, he's like, here, let me show you a little trick we picked up from the Viet Cong. And the other guy is walking by. He's like, you couldn't have been old enough to serve for that. And so he ends up like fixing what he says. But like the whole concept is still basically undoing grenades and putting them in like the weld wheel for what's it called, of the motorcycle. Like the side of it, basically.
So that's what he learned from the Viet Cong?
It's like, were they doing that a lot?
To use grenades?
Did a whole bunch of American soldiers have, like motocross bikes? And I don't remember that part of things.
I don't know. And it's pretty impressive because he has like 4 grenades and there's like 10 bikes.
Yes.
And the people that are chasing after him just happen to pick the 2 that have grenades on them.
Yep. The 2 unsafest options you could possibly choose.
Good job, bikers.
That's why we don't like bikers.
That is it. That is the Snake Eater trilogy.
It's done. It's complete.
Soldier, where's your sister? Where'd she go?
Technically, there's a 4th movie.
What?
Yeah. It's an unofficial type thing. I'll see if I can find it, but they did have an unofficial 4th movie. I'm not sure, because I was reading about it earlier. I think they may have changed a couple elements of it. Does it
have Lorenzo Lamas in it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to check. Because I can't remember what it's called, because it's not Snake Eater, but it's something else. Like, I don't remember if it's Jake's Vengeance or something like that.
Hey, Adrian. How many snakes do they eat in this movie, Adrian?
0.
0 snakes. How many snakes were eaten in the Snake Eater trilogy?
72.
1 snake. There was 1 snake eaten. In the first movie, he ate a snake. I think. I don't really remember.
Are you okay? Do you need to sit down? I'm
very mad. You don't call things Snake Eater unless multiple snakes are eaten.
Okay.
It's a third of a snake per movie. You know the Metal Gear Solid game, Snake Eater? Lots of snakes. So many snakes eaten. Very upset.
I don't know what to say to you. I'm sorry. It's not my fault.
I can't blame George Urshbaumer. He's too busy being up in Canada making shitty direct-to-TV movies. I have to blame you.
It does sound like you're doing that, so just saying.
I can't make fun of the guy who made a Firehouse Christmas for the Hallmark Channel.
No. Yeah, the movie is called Hawk's Vengeance.
Who's Hawk?
I don't know. No, that's what I'm saying, is that's what it should be. Reading on another side, it says, I know Hawk's Vengeance was supposed to be the 4th in the Snake Eater series, but it doesn't really fit, so I don't count it. It doesn't have Lorenzo Lamas in it.
I'm so disappointed.
But I guess the character's supposed to be very similar. And on the box art for the movie, it says exciting. Yes.
Who said exciting? That's the best quote they got.
Click on it.
The best pull quote they got.
But
exciting.
Here's the plot of that movie, and we'll see if you think that it fits, save for when the word British is used. Eric Hawke, a British Marine, attends the funeral of his policeman brother, who he discovers has been attempting to investigate the mysterious kidnappings and murders of a local Asian street gang. The clues seem to point to rival Nazi white supremacist groups as the culprits, but Lizzie, Hawke's brother's partner in the police force, is not so sure. She suspects a large conspiracy which involves one of the city's most powerful crime bosses, a man by the name of Gar. As the body count rises, Eric, Lizzie, and young gang member Lipo Chung race to uncover the truth behind the murders before more missing gang members wash up on the beat with missing organs.
What? There's a lot there.
Yes.
There's a whole lot there.
Yes.
You can't just toss the phrase missing organs at the end of your summary and not explain it.
I don't know. They did. It worked.
This movie appears to have everything.
Yes. This movie must be seen.
But at vengeance.
And even that movie was supposed to have a sequel.
We were robbed.
Yep. I mean, we got 3 snake eaters and they didn't get shit.
But some people really liked this snake eater because
I don't want to know. Would you want to know what I do want to know?
What?
Your vote.
Oh, my vote. Okay. Do you remember what we said about the second snake eater? Do you remember if we said guilty or not guilty?
I don't remember because that movie was just weird.
I think we said guilty.
I think I wanted to abstain from it just because I couldn't fully figure it out.
To quote David's 10-star review from Instagram, This time, Soldier uses... Or not Instagram, sorry. IMDb. This time, Soldier uses a shotgun. 10 stars.
I guess that's the difference. I guess that's what you need.
Wait, this is... To quote David's 10-star review on IMDb, I give Snake Eater an 8 out of 10. But he said 10. I don't understand. It's guilty. This is... Snake Eater was wonderful. I think we let that movie go free. And this cannot achieve the lofty heights of Snake Eater 1.
No. The first Snake Eater is pure lightning in a bottle. And they tried twice to recreate it. The second one...
I was not emotionally prepared for you to use the phrase lightning in a bottle for a Snake Eater movie.
But because it's the perfect distillation of what you want in a movie in that time, and somebody just missing the mark completely.
Yeah.
Which was a difficult thing to do with like the amount of money and interest behind the camera they had when they got to that.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's what's impressive about it. Like it shouldn't be entertaining at all, even in a bad way. It should just be a nothing and have, no opinions or anything itself. But this one, strangely enough, I had expectations for, and they weren't met. So it's guilty.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree.
Yeah.
And just as Joseph P. Oublias says, C, B for wrestling fans. Sometimes IMDb reviews are fun.
Now, we did tease out on the internet that there was good news and bad news in this episode. And the good news, as we mentioned, is that we were going to be watching another Snake Eater movie. It turns out that there's more than one bit of bad news, because the first bit of bad news is this wasn't a good movie.
It was not. Did we honestly expect it to be a good movie?
I hope that it would be somewhere between one and 2. Like it would be 1.5. It's the best way to hope for that one.
Yeah, I suppose.
That did not happen.
No, it did not.
But if you also noticed at the very beginning of the episode, I mentioned that this was the penultimate episode. And that's because, well, Scott, I think you should be the person to mention this.
Yeah, I am unfortunately having to step down from being a regular host on here. I just have too many things going on, too many other projects I'm trying to work on, and I ran out of time and was basically had no time for anything else. So something had to give, and unfortunately this is it. So, I'm not going to be hosting, and because of that, we're kind of gonna shut the show down at least for the foreseeable future. With the idea in reserve to bring it up again possibly someday. But
yeah, I mean, if unfortunately Scott's schedule clears up, then we can jump back into it. And
unfortunately,
and well, no, because I mean, it would basically mean that one of your other podcasts that's doing well is not doing well. So that's why I'm saying we hope that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, it's just, we've got, we're expanding and branding things and trying to grow, and all this stuff is taking so much more of my time than it used to, which is, I mean, I think, in the large sense, that's a good thing. Like, I'm glad. I'm very happy about that, but I'm also very, very sad that I had to
stab me in the back.
This is not what I did. This is not what I did.
To flourish. That's what I said. I mean, flourish and flounder are really close together, but that's not my fault.
You will be fine. Adrian has a great idea for something that he's working on.
But that'll be at a later date, and it's more so that I'm pushing that forward now, finding out, and that's because Scott was like, well, you can find a co-host, if you want, and we'll keep running it. And, like I said, maybe something will change, but I doubt it. But something may change, and Scott and I could be back here in a couple months from now. But it's really difficult, even if you've only been doing as few episodes as we have, to find another person. You look at so many different TV shows that decided that, this character's leaving, so we're bringing somebody in to replace them, and it just doesn't work. You work up with a rapport with someone, and part of this experiment and the enjoyment behind this was seeing how Scott was able to, face the pressure and everything. So it's not having that back and forth and just trying to find somebody to come on. You're not sure how you're going to mesh as well. So it just seems like the best idea to, put it into a holding pattern, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, Shelley Long left, and then they got a Kirstie Alley, and she was different, but it was still a good show. That's my Cheers reference for the day.
And I can easily eat pizza with scissors, but that doesn't make it, it okay.
Where did that come from?
Cobra.
What?
Cobra. Cobra fits in with Snake Eater.
I guess so.
With the renegade cop.
I was still on Cheers in my head. So
I know you are.
You were talking about
and you were talking. Yes, but at the same time, we were talking about bringing Kirstie Alley in for Shelley Long and having it be basically somebody who was stepping into the role. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not so much. It's something that's fine on its own, but it doesn't really work, and it's not what you necessarily want at that time. But it was the same way, and there with images of Cobra cutting up pizza with the scissors and eating it. It's not something you want.
So sometimes I marvel at where you go with your things.
I mean, you've seen the scene.
I have.
In that movie.
I just never would have made that connection.
It makes total sense. It makes total sense.
I believe you.
Scott, where can the people find you on the internet?
I can be found on the Twitter website until I get mad and frustrated and lock it down, because that happens.
So he's off there now.
At Scott Daly 85. That's DALY. And you can also find all my other shows at dailyplanetfilms.com, including We've Got Ward, the Daily Planet podcast, which Adrian will definitely be on to guest sometime soon, and more. Check that out there.
I'll be around.
Yeah.
I can be found on Twitter at Adrian Torres. You can find my writing over at Boom Howdy. Don't have anything this week over there because we just got done with Panic Fest, which was tons of fun. Got to meet a whole bunch of filmmakers of some movies that you guys are going to be talking about for the rest of this year. Was lucky enough to bump into and get to meet Joe Lynch and Adam Green, who, if you are ever near any live anything that they're doing near where you live, go to it. Their events are usually cheaper than most other big time events that have, filmmakers who've worked with a whole bunch of people, and then the fact that they have a very successful podcast. So, like, their tickets in Kansas City were only $25. And their VIP pass for the show was only $25 too. And they're just really good, genuine, down-to-earth people. And, like, they treat everybody with immense respect. And it's just like, do you know who you are, right? You might not see yourself as this super ultimately, successful person, but lots of people like and dig your stuff. So the fact that you're still that nice and grounded is cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I did have 3 reviews that went up on Downright Creepy this week, because that's the sister site of Boom Howdy, and that focuses more on, specifically horror and sci-fi and everything. So I had a review of Replace Up, which is just one for Mohawk, the new film by the director of We Are Still Here. And it's an interesting movie. It's one of those that, like, it comes out next month. I might suggest renting it just so that you can say you said it or seen it. But it's got a lot of ambition, and it's got a lot of ideas that don't really work. But it's interesting. But the one that everybody has to see is Low Life. And if you put Low Life 2017 top 10, you'll see that it made it on several people's top 10 list. Several big name people, several mid name people, and some lower people. Scott, because I know that you read the site, and anybody else who reads lots of movie sites on the internet will be familiar with the name. But Priscilla Page actually put Low Life on her top 25, I think it was, for last year.
Oh, wow.
And then Andrew Todd, who writes for Birth Movies Death, put it as number 5 or 6 on his list. So it's very good. You're going to hear lots of people say that it reminds them of, like, the first time they saw Pulp Fiction. Don't be turned off by that. That they're just describing a feeling and a sensation that's comfortable to basically understand. And that's because it feels the same way. Like, when people mention the feeling of Pulp Fiction, it doesn't necessarily mean just Pulp Fiction. What it's talking about is it's elucidating the feeling that you might have for an emerging new talent. And that's how this movie feels. It feels like it's the beginning of something. Like, this director's going to go on and do a whole bunch of stuff. So it's very well worth it. And that one comes out at the beginning of April.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
It is. And since, Scott, we have one more episode. I know we were talking earlier. We hadn't really come to a decision, but can you think of anything that we should do for our last episode?
I don't know.
I mean, it's difficult. We have to pick something big that would be good. You
know? Yeah. Something meaningful, something
that hits home, something that's true to the spirit of Phantom Zoned.
Yeah, something from the heart,
I don't know. Something that keeps you up at night, like a beeping in the back of your head.
Yeah, like something from the heart that beeps. Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything like that.
I don't know.
Hey, by the way, have you seen that Jim Carrey documentary on Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was
great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Jim
Carrey's kind of an asshole.
Yeah. There were no robots in it.
No.
Okay, we're gonna have to think about this, man.
We'll have to sit down. I think I need to sleep on it. Really, I just need to lay in bed thinking this through.
Yep.
And we'll figure it out.
Listen to your heart. Listen to the beeps in the back of your mind, and maybe we'll find something.
Perfect.
Until next time.
I don't need no predictions. I don't listen to fate. I'm a cold soul survivor, and I've been known not to wait. In a land of confusion, no one's ready to face. If it's love that you're after, then you're in the wrong place. kiss, baby.